let's start here. So Netflix is out with a new documentary, Becoming, chronicling Michelle Obama's book tour. Most of this is fluff and it's not something that you're going to all that much care about. But the part that caught my eye was the piece of sublime voter shaming that, like Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama could not pass up the opportunity to languish in her pain that black folks didn't come out to vote for Hillary Clinton. Her pain. Twice she talks about how, this is the quote, twice she talks about how painful it is that black voters didn't turn out to vote for Hillary Clinton, calling the decision to not vote more painful to her than those who voted for Trump. It takes some energy to go high, and we were exhausted from it, because when you're the first black anything, she said, referencing antidotes from her Becoming book. So the day that I left the White House, and I write about how painful it was that on the inauguration stage, a lot of our folks didn't vote. I was almost like a slap in the face. It was like a slap in the face. I understand that people who voted for Trump, she continued, the people who didn't vote at all, the young people, the women, that's when you think, man, people think this is a game. It wasn't just this election. Every midterm, every time Barack didn't get the Congress he needed, it was because our folks didn't show up. After all that work, they just couldn't be bothered. That is my trauma. That's Michelle Obama's trauma. That's nice to know that's Michelle Obama's trauma. On behalf of all the lefties, younger blacks, trapped Hispanics, kids, the poor, people without a house, people drinking lead water, people that wanted justice for the tanking of the economy by Wall Street, or for that matter, wanted justice for the million of dead Iraqis and the 4,000 dead Americans in the deserts of the Middle East. Add in the desperate many that bought into the Hope and Change advertisement. And frankly, since your husband gave 95% of the income gains to the top 1%, I am also adding in 99% of the population that was stuck fighting over 5% of the income gains. On behalf of all of us, Michelle Obama, shut up. Shut the hell up. I don't want to hear about your trauma. I don't want to hear about your pain. You want to talk about trauma. A man calling himself a socialist ran against Hillary Clinton in the Democratic Party. The masses of youth came out to the tune of 70%. If you were interested in beating Trump, the path was clear. Real, legitimate concessions to bring over that group. You were more concerned with stopping that man, however, than adopting the policies that would have won you the race whole hog. It wouldn't have been close, but you didn't want to do that. You didn't want to give those concessions. That's on you. That pain is on you. I hope you understand this. This is not them. This is on you. This is on your party. It is your party's responsibility to get those people out there to vote. It's just not on them. Your party, they don't owe you squat. Voting is a transactional process. And if after the Hope and Change stuff, if those people didn't believe that the Hope and Change rhetoric coincided with actual real material gains, and considering that their health care was going up 50% after you passed Obamacare, maybe they didn't buy into the Hope and Change stuff, or they didn't necessarily see how that Hope and Change actually materialized. To make a point, Pew data, almost half of non-voters in 2016 presidential election were non-white. More than half, almost half, even though they compose only 1/4 of the voting population. Even more extreme is the data on class. More than half of non-voters, 56%, are quite poor, making less than $36,000, even though the income gap or income group constitutes just over 1/4 of the voting population. The point is, people who are of African American descent or people of color and people who are poor are more likely to not vote. Now, you would think that these would be your Democratic constituencies, but the catch here is that those people have gotten so disengaged from the political process, from people like your husband, people like Bill Clinton, promising these things and not delivering on those things, giving this Hope and Change rhetoric, when in reality you govern like a Republican. You had Occupy Wall Street, a mass uprising of human beings that said, we need a different society. This isn't working for us. They crashed the economy and you let them run away with it. None of them got in prison. You bailed them out and we were screwed over. And with that mass uprising of people, your husband, adopted the rhetoric of the 99%. Same husband that gave 95% of the wealth to that 1%. And you are concerned and shocked that those people didn't come out for your husband. The catch here is those people have realized that who they vote for, whether it's Democrat or Republican, at the end of the day doesn't change their material conditions. And because it doesn't change their material conditions, they can't necessarily see the reason for them to go out to vote. Your pathway was clear. That mass uprising told you exactly what you needed to do. The fact that Sanders was elevated to the degree that he was, out of nowhere, he was at 3% when he started that race, told you what you needed to do. Sanders running in this race where he was getting like 70% of the youth vote told you what you needed to do. The majority of the population saying they wanted Medicare for all, expansion of student debt, getting rid of student debt, and elimination, expansion of Social Security. They told you what you needed to do. It was clear as day. You just didn't want to do it. Your issue was the how do you run the race and how do you con those people to vote for you without offering anything real and material gains while you represent the interests of the 1%. That was your dilemma. Your party made the decision that it was more important to not give political concessions as opposed to giving those concessions to the left and beating Donald Trump. That is on you. That is not on anybody else. That is not on any lefty. That is not on any Hispanic. That is not on any person that voted. That's not on any Green Party voter. That's not on any of those dejected human beings who rationally pull themselves out of the political process, realizing that that political process is not giving them material gains for the energy that they would expend in that process. And by the way, those people are right. Those people are right. Those are the righteous few. Your salvation, believe it or not, is found doing exactly what those people are doing, with one caveat. State your demands. It is one thing to pull yourself from the political process. That is absolutely correct. But it is also more correct to be able to state the demands for why you're pulling yourself out the political process. A no vote is a vote. It's a vote of no confidence in regards to the political process. You have nearly half of the population that don't vote. And again, the majority of that share would be people who would typically vote for the Democratic Party had that party been responsive to their needs. Don't blame the voters. Blame yourself. Blame your party. Blame the ineffectiveness to which you're dealing with this crisis. Blame the ineffectiveness of the candidate to which you've just put up, a man that is so cognitively challenged and that is literally being accused of a sexual allegation that all of the women had to repudiate the Me Too movement and their previous position to even back the guy. And even he, in the middle of a pandemic, after losing the policy argument across the board, even he said he would veto Medicare for all. I'm trying to put to you that your issue here is your party and what your party is willing to do to ameliorate the concerns of the population. And the fact that it is not willing to do those things, that is not willing to give those concessions, that is not willing to lean to what the majority of the population wants, then you lose. That's on you. That's not on the American public. That is on you. Your pathway is clear as day. You just don't want to open that door. Your wealthy owner class. Tellers are too deep. Bob, voter shaming. I'm not a fan of voter shaming. And especially when it's one of those things where if you wanted those votes, you should have went and got those votes. You can't go after the fact and say, boo-hoo, you didn't vote for my crappy candidate. That doesn't work.
No, I mean, absolutely not on that point. I mean, the Democrats, if you want to look in Michigan and between 2016 and 2020, they lose 100,000 votes and they only lose the election by 11,000. So blame Barack Obama and whatever his administration did to not turn those folks out again. There was more than enough non-voting Democrats to win the race that they did not need to shame libertarians, Green Party, or anybody that stayed home. When there's tens of millions of people that didn't vote and all you needed to find is a few 100,000 across the entire country to be in the White House right now, that's on you. It's not some overarching huge number that people are not without reason withholding from these groups. And the other point I just want to make here in Washington, D.C., Jamarl, if you look at the poorest ward in the Democratic primary in 2018 that decides who the mayor of the city is, poorest ward, less than 10% of people turned out. And
Wow.
that's a Democratic stronghold. This city has been, always will be a Democratic city, at least well into the future. The Democrats in the poorest neighborhood can turn out less than 10%, but somehow all of a sudden in the wealthiest neighborhoods, you turn out 25 to 30%, which is still absolutely dismal, Jamarl. 30% turnout is nothing. It's
But
minuscule, but it's 3 times more because those people are actually getting services from the government.
right there, that's it, right there. The reason that those people vote in higher numbers is because they are actually getting something back from what they're putting in, meaning their vote is transactional, so they engage. Because the Democratic Party has effectively did this Faustian bargain where they're going to take all of this cash while basically doing this incrementalism. Well, the incrementalism gets such to the point where the people can't tell the difference between one party or the other, and they're like, what's the point? Why am I going to invest my energies in this? And they pull out.
On one note, the other thing that's really disturbing too then is the marketing of the brand and the shaming. And I think that's a different conversation where Michelle Obama's she's not saying this to turn out people that didn't vote. She's doing it for moral superiority to those who did vote for Democrats. So they can say, aren't we better than those people that didn't turn out? You create somewhat of a snidish kind of persona of like, how dare you not do this thing? That's not to motivate. Nobody's going to be motivated by that. Michelle Obama knows nobody's motivated by that to turn out and vote. It's to motivate those who have voted. And that's what's so disgusting by it. And these people are willing to lie here in that ward that I was mentioning, Ward 7 and Wards 8 east of the river here in Washington, D.C. Oftentimes, Jamarl, there are conspiracy theories floated amongst people within that community around what's happening to the wealth and the money. And what happens is those Democrats who say, we are on your side, we got you, we're doing everything we can, we are absolutely fighting for you, they then blame and scapegoat other people. And then people don't actually know what's happening with their wealth. They don't know what's happening in their community. They want to trust the Democratic Party, who is supposed to be the party of the people, but then the Democrats lie to them, Jamarl, and that's part of it, right? You want people to wake up, they want to state demands, but people are purposely given false information, misaccurate information. They're purposely left out of the political sphere. So how do they even name demands when the two major parties in this country are so focused on miseducating and distracting people? How are you supposed to know which way is up when you're just trying to survive?
Well, I would make the case that which way is up is undetached from the political parties. There's no way to get any kind of real view of the world if you're looking through the lens of a party. Parties have specific objectives that they want to accomplish.
I'm saying like from the perspective of a person trying to hang on to a minimum wage job, trying to figure out healthcare, swamped by calls for debt. How are you supposed to figure out which way your demand should go when you're being told all of this misinformation from the people with the bullhorns? I mean, that's the end of the day. Michelle Obama has a Netflix special. She has sold out stadiums with Oprah, and she has a national book. She has the bullhorn. She's the one with authority. And if it's misinformation, how do you counter that to people that are they're not necessarily engaged in politics for many different reasons? Jamarl, let's put a pin in it there. There's a lot more to talk about that we can get to later in the show.